Can the Pope's Vatican redesign our economy? You know, newspapers are talking about it. Why Leo, new Pope, shows support for workers and labor unions. And this is all part of the encyclical Rerum Novarum. Pope Leo's name carries a warning about the rise of AI. It connects to AI and artificial intelligence because we're told that many people aren't going to have jobs anymore. They're just going to sit at home, useless eaters. So in order to get money, you're going to have a universal basic income. And this universal basic income is going to give you a certain amount of money. But if you don't go along with the program, you don't get the money. And that's going to include rest. Of course, it's going to include a lot more things than just that. Your test is going to be far bigger than you think. It's not just about a day of rest. That's part of it. That's only one of the tests. We're going to have a lot of tests going on here. And this is the former Leo. We're protecting workers against tech-induced consolidation, including minimum wage laws and trade unions. So minimum wage laws, that means universal basic income. Everybody's going to get the same amount of little bit of money. And if you don't go along, you don't get the money. And it's all going to be controlled by AI. It's all going to be controlled by these people. Minimum wage. It says at the heart of Leo XIV's new name choice is Leo XIII's formal letter, Rerum Novarum, which he wrote in 1891. At the time, the Industrial Revolution was upending society. So the Industrial Revolution in the former Leo, and now we have what they call the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Rerum Novarum, you know what this document talks about? Cessation from work and labor on Sundays and certain holy days. And this is the obligation. And this is to be enforced by state power. Sundays. And they want to enforce this. And then, of course, they're talking about his Rerum Novarum 2.0, Catholic labor advocates, heartened by Pope Leo's direction. No rest. You know, that rest is a Sabbath. No Sabbath if they don't take the mark of his name. The mark of the beast, wear the forehead, all these things about the seal of God, the mark of the beast. Who's behind this industrial revolution that's coming, right? All these leaders, whether it's Klaus Schwab, Pope Leo, they're all working together. And it says the fourth industrial revolution will affect the very essence of our human experience. What's the Pope's plan for this new economy, this new global economy? They're asking the Pope, World Economic Forum, and all these other people, right? A new world could emerge, contours of which it is incumbent on us to reimagine and to redraw. They call it the Great Reset. That's reset the economy, reset of the whole world. And then, of course, involved in that is a day of rest, which is Sunday. We build the future. I'm not going to play this video. Some of you have seen these already. Of course, they tell us they build the future, just like Nebuchadnezzar. Look at this great kingdom which I built. They're going to do the same thing. Babylon, build Babylon again, build back better, right? And of course, the Bible is clear. It's when we look at all these things, what they're doing, it's all pride. It's all what they can do. And there's no God in any of this. God, this is actually satanic. This is the dragon in his masterpiece. If you read Revelation 17, you'll find the dragon gives his power, seat, and authority to the beast. And the dragon's government is always communistic. It does not protect the rights of the people. The God-given rights. Rights come from God. But labor laws. It was Gavin Newsom, this is in California, signing sweeping labor laws. And if you notice down at the bottom, right down here, it talks about sponsored by the California Federation of Labor Unions and Teamsters California. So Teamsters and labor unions, all these labor unions working together to bring in sweeping labor laws. And you can see their symbol, horses, many horses, Babylon, Revelation, or Daniel chapter 11. But it says, the time is fast coming when the controlling power of the labor unions will be very oppressive. Again and again, the Lord has instructed that our people are to take their families away from the cities into the country where they can raise their own provisions, for in the future, the problem of buying and selling will be a very serious one. Now, what do you think is going to happen if you don't follow these instructions? It says where you can raise your own provisions. Does God just say he's going to feed you if you stay in the city? And if you don't follow his instructions now, you're going to starve. There's certain times and places, right, where God has certain things. So in time and place, right now, he's saying if you don't follow his instructions, then the problem of buying and selling is going to be a very serious one. Because what's happening with Teamsters, AI, with the papacy, and what's happening in America, all of this stuff is working together. It's going to be a very serious problem. Jesus says, flee out of Judea. If you fail to flee out of Judea and you say, oh, God's with me, are you still in the general destruction of the wicked in Judea? And he's given us prophecy to take heed. Now remember Teamsters President Sean O'Brien? He met with the Pope and they want to discuss the role of unions, Teamsters union bosses at the Vatican.
Thousands of union workers in Chicago, the Teamsters, the machinists, healthcare workers, and more. At the Vatican, they received a private audience with Pope Leo today. He's an advocate for the dignity of all workers.
I encourage you to continue to advocate for society to respect the human dignity of all people.
Mm-hmm. So who is Leo going to work with? The union bosses, right? Who does he want? What does he want the unions to do? What's the movement here? What's the movement? Rerum Novarum. We were talking about Sunday law. Teamsters celebrate the legacy of Pope Leo XIII encyclical on labor. This is only about a month ago, right, that this just happened here. And you can see all these pictures. There's the boss of Teamsters, Sean O'Brien. But it says in the first of its kind, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters hosted a special event celebrating the legacy of Rerum Novarum with President Sean O'Brien. Rerum Novarum established the fundamentals of Catholic social teaching and laid the foundation for a relationship between the church and organized labor. So they know that Rerum Novarum is the foundation of Catholic social teaching. Rerum Novarum comes from Pope Leo XIII, right? So Pope Leo XIV named himself after Pope Leo XIII to bring forth this new Rerum Novarum 2.0 movement, which is, of course, to establish the fundamentals of Catholic social teaching in the state. But this is Jonathan Berry here at the Teamsters meeting. He's not only at the Teamsters meeting, which is celebrating Rerum Novarum, Catholic social teaching, but let's just consider this carefully. Do you think that Jonathan Berry knows about Rerum Novarum and Pope Leo XIII? You think Jonathan Berry understands these things? I'm going to just give you an idea of who Jonathan Berry is and what he really understands. This is Jonathan Berry has recently been confirmed as the Department of Labor's chief attorney. So where does Jonathan Berry work? For President Donald Trump as the Labor Office's chief attorney. And he's an organizer of the event. What event? This event. The International Brotherhood of Teamsters, a special event celebrating the legacy of Rerum Novarum. Who organized celebrating the legacy of Rerum Novarum? It says German-style work councils and Sabbath laws to allow labor to rest on Sunday. So, what does Jonathan Berry want to do? He wants Sabbath laws, labor rest on Sunday. What is he organizing together with? The unions, the biggest unions in America, Teamster. This is Jonathan Berry again on day 112.
What are you on day one taking to the new Secretary of Labor? Something I really encourage. I don't see a big. It's harder to see a big federal role for this. I think this is more a question of state and local law. Is reinvigorating where possible Sabbath rest laws.
Right. What does he want to bring on day 1? And he's just been bringing in Sean O'Brien to the Senate to speak. And he's testifying before the Senate. What is Sean O'Brien testifying about when he comes before the Senate? What do you think he's testifying about? Let's just listen.
Congress has not updated labor laws for nearly 100 years, but clearly the workforce has changed. We need new labor laws. We need labor laws that work for workers, unions, and businesses, making the United States competitive in a 21st century economy.
So labor laws. What kind of labor laws do you think could be coming? Let's just keep going here. Let's keep going. Here's Sean O'Brien, leader of Teamsters unions, one of the biggest unions in the United States. Listen carefully.
Last week, the Teamsters hosted a special event celebrating the legacy of Rerum Novarum in shared work with the Catholic Church and organized labor. Rerum Novarum was written in the wake of an industrial revolution. It reminds us that humans are not instruments meant to be ground down and discarded. The economy must exist to serve humanity, not the reverse.
So these economic labor laws come from Rerum Novarum. And Rerum Novarum pushes Sunday laws, all in honor of saving us from this new industrial revolution.